Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for August 1st, 2025. I'm Benji Fisher moderating. Ralph Kohler is sharing their screen and we'll start off the conversation. And Simo Helston is also here. Thank you both and go ahead, Ralph.
Thanks, Benji. Today we want to look at issue number 3534341. Package Manager settings form should allow you to auto-detect the locations of Composer and rsync. It's basically about an issue we've talked about before and reviewed. It's a follow-up to the issue number 3511972, allowing Composer and rsync location to be configured via the UI. Oops, 1 second, I have to make it a little bit smaller. We've reviewed that issue apologies for the scrolling, in comment number 42. And that issue got already fixed and got into core. When you basically have Package Manager installed and set testing Package Manager, oops, I'll move that over, settings testing Package Manager set to true, then you get basically under configuration system Package Manager settings, the following UI. And back then, our recommendation was basically to have a text block up here to illustrate if one of the two or both binaries are available, and if so, which version they have. Because problem currently is, if you're getting to that interface and it looks like it's a required field, both are required fields, and you're not sure is Composer available or not. And if you would have to go basically to the status reports page to see, okay, Composer in version 2.8.10 is available. And also same as, it's also possible if Project Browser is installed, you're able to allow installing via UI, which is also requiring Composer. But just based on that interface here, it's totally not clear at all. And the other 2 points we've raised back then, 1 point, I guess it was from Simo. He mentioned, he's suggested to try basically, if you provide, for example, a link to user local bin Composer, instead use, if you enter, for example, user local bin node instead, for any of those two, it's still passing and the form validates. And the other point that was raised is basically if you override settings via the config package manager settings and the executable path for rsync and set rsync to user bin rsync, and on the other hand, in here provide rsyncer, then you get basically, as you can see here, those warnings with undefined arrow key parents and so forth. Those problems still apply. And also the point about issue number 3526867, also a follow-up we've opened after the usability meeting back then, because as you can see, at the moment, you only check for the Composer version in here, but for rsync, there doesn't exist an equivalent test on the status reports page, which is checking for the rsync binary as well. And now that's basically the status quo. And now I'm applying basically the patch, or better check out the branch and what the change will be about. def trash cr. And the patch is basically providing an auto detect button.
Ah, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah, but strictly speaking, Composer and rsync are already auto detected and everything is working properly.
Ah, so instead of making these configuration options non-required, which in a sense they already are, like you don't have to fill out this form and it all works.
Yeah,
So instead of just declaring that they're non-required, we're adding a button. Yeah, this seems confusing to me.
yeah. And I totally see the point from Fenner Proxima's perspective. He's a developer, he built that entire thing, and he thinks all those suggestions we made were overeager and not necessary. But if you take it from perspective of a non-technical person, it might be potentially confusing. And from my perspective, in cases like that, I don't trust basically systems. And if I'm not sure if something is set, it's for me that leads into a freeze. And I'm not sure what the current case is and if it's working, if it's not working. And I'm totally uncertain there and my head is spinning.
Okay, so you feel strongly that you don't like the current interface.
I consider it confusing.
Okay. Um, and previously, I think we recommended a text area to say
Yeah.
these are the values we're currently using. And then instead of these required fields, we would have optional fields. Did we suggest something like override composer
Uh,
executable?
We had a clear consensus in both meetings to recommend replacing the status message with a text box, solves point one, instead of auto-detecting and creating noise every time you visit. Simply display the path the two binaries available at and auto-detect in a text box. Only return an error with the same accuracy as experienced on the reports page, solves point two, if package manager is unable to auto-detect the binaries. That way, the user is always in control and gets the reassurance everything is in place and package manager is fully operational. At the same time, it is clearly communicated that it's possible to override the executable path. For that, the two fields should not use any placeholder text and be empty instead.
Right. So at least that much has been implemented. They're not using placeholder text now.
Yeah. But yeah,
Actually, can you go back there? Because I think it was the next bullet point that I was really asking about. In addition to adding the text box, we would also suggest to change the title of the field set underneath from executable path to custom executable path.
yeah,
So that's what we recommended back then. Um, and I think that's still our recommendation, right?
yeah. But
Simo, any comments?
Well, started thinking like with this auto detect button, if the values would be originally auto detected, then the auto detect button would function as a reset button. But if those are like labeled custom paths, then they just shouldn't be required and everything would be fine. Or except it wouldn't tell which are the current paths, but I'm not even sure if that is necessary. What I'm also thinking is if those are not required, or if somebody wants to set manually only one of the paths. So that's something that if so you have to set, if you set manually one, do you have to set well, here when they are required, you have to set both. But I was thinking that if one of the, let's say, composer exists in some place else and async is just in the default location, then so you need to.
As you can see, fill out this field. You have.
And if you click auto detect, it fills them both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the current state, it's just basically illustrating the already set values.
Mm. So what is missing is it could say that it's, as we recommended, it would be custom executable path, and then would allow it to be empty and to use the default it's using anyway.
But I still think having a text area, what the current selection is, or the binaries that are used, I think it's sort of mandatory.
But then again, if we won't call it custom executable paths, it could, or well, even if we call it that, it could just auto detect it when this is enabled, and then it would just have the executables there. So it would just fill it the first time it's installed, and then it would show it on the it would have the setting on the field, like the path would be on the field from the beginning, so it would be empty.
All that way, yeah.
Mm.
But still, some sort of feedback if that path that is given there. Let's take, for example, the case we don't use in text area and just have that field set with executable path. And if the auto detect on the first opening auto detects and shows the current, then also some sort of, let's say, green check mark or something that, yeah, it's functional and operational. Some feedback, sort of.
Yeah, I think in that case it should be allowed to, like it should run some command to know it if it's executable or if it's working, and then check the output from that, I suppose.
Yeah, but that brings me also back to the point mentioned before with Node. Let's say either you just enter a path to the Node binary, or you rename and you renamed a Node binary or something else. Back then we thought, yeah, it could be also some bad actor with dangerous binary, and rename that to composer. And if that check is just checking for the name, or if anything else is checked. Not sure. Banshee, from a security perspective, is that a potential issue?
I'm sorry, you're asking whether there's, some other binary installed at user local bin composer that's not actually composer?
Yeah, or let's say someone either replaces the composer binary with a binary that is just named Composer, but is something else, or also the case, if someone doesn't use the auto detect and simply enters a different binary than Composer. And in that case, in our example back then, it was just Node to illustrate it. But we've asked back then if that is a potential security issue, that whole set of
Yeah, so
scenarios.
the first case, if someone has access to your server and can replace user local bin composer with some other executable, then they can already control your server. They can do anything they want, basically. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
The second case, where you enter node instead of composer, that could be a problem. And even the idea of executing that command to see whether it actually is composer is not a good idea.
Okay.
And
yeah, one of the things which is mitigated that you can't really manage execution rights in the file system was that we were able to point the executable path to upload to public files uploadable from the user interface. So we could upload a file from Drupal and then point the executable path to that one, but it shouldn't run as an executable on the server because it doesn't have the byte.
in fact, we're getting to the point where I probably will not make this part of the recording publicly available, because I think that's already a valid security concern, given what's already implemented. So we should have a security issue to discuss, how to manage this.
Okay.
And please don't discuss these concerns
Mhm.
outside of outside of security.drupal.org or private DMs.
Question, should I delete them, certain bullet points on here? Up, or better up here with the point 3, for example.
Yes, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. I do it after the meeting.
How does it work with the reports status? It returns different version numbers. So can it return version number for Composer? Yes, it does. So it does know what which version of Composer is. So that same information we have on the reports that could, if that is done correctly, then it should be available as a confirmation that the path is set correct, I guess.
As you can see, I've changed it now to Node. And then on the status reports page, you get the feedback that something is off. But on here, everything is fine.
So this page could have information about the Composer version, or that it doesn't seem to work.
Yeah, that's basically the suggestion we've made back then, having a text area with so basically it's mirroring the output on the status reports page.
Yeah.
And it also, the other point was, it feels like that on the status reports page, the check is more accurate than on the package manager settings. It felt like, and also the point, yeah, for rsync, that issue at a runtime requirements test for rsync analogous to Composer is also missing, because on the status reports page, you don't have anything in that regard.
Right. Yeah, I suppose a warning, not an error, would make sense on this page, because I think I brought this up last time we talked about it. You might want to configure a value here that's not going to work on your local copy of the site, and then you might want to export that configuration and import it to the live site where it will be valid. So yeah, I think I said last time that we should let people set whatever they want here. A warning message is appropriate, but we should let them set it however they want. So no error message.
Yes.
Okay.
So um, I I will follow up um, on the security questions, and for the usability questions, I think we should summarize what we've said on the previous issues, since we are still making the same recommendations, and that we don't like this current interface. Um,
Just one question to you two. In what regard would be that kind of auto detect button necessary at all? Or is it necessary at all? Because if you have, let's say we have the text area, and then it says, for example, yeah, Composer is not found, but would pressing the auto detect button then find Composer? Because if the auto detect in the first place hasn't found it, why should an auto detect that? Is it a different process then?
I think it would be useful if you have a if you have a site that used to be maintained by someone else on, let's say, Lando, with certain Linux image, and then you get it to your maintenance, and then you maintain it with, let's say, ddev with a different brand of Linux image, and then there is some difference, and then you can just, if it doesn't work, you can click auto detect, and it would detect if the location of the files is different in your image. So in that kind of migration, or kind of a changing the development environment, it could be useful.
Okay, because I've considered it only in the context of, yeah, on the server. And there I was not sure if it makes any sense. But yeah, in the context of local environments, it indeed makes sense.
Right. Although there are other ways to achieve the same thing. So if we take what we've been discussing and make these fields not required, then you could achieve the same effect just by blanking out those two fields and submitting the form, and then it will go back to its system default. And either way, it also gives you a way to override one but not the other. So with my preferred method, they're both non-required. You fill in the one you want to override, leave the other one blank. But with the way it currently works, where both fields are required, the workflow would be to click the auto detect button, fill both fields, and then override the one that you want to override.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing we could quickly test. I'll go into user local bin. The move user local bin composer. Okay. No, it has to be. But the question is, back to the DDEF and Lando example, would Composer be in a different path then? And which paths will the auto detect check?
The path would depend on which Linux image one is using. So it could be even it doesn't need to be different interface for Docker interface, but it just it's enough to change from one type of Linux image to another type of Linux image if there for some reason there has been customizations. So let's say changing from Ubuntu image to Arch Linux image or something like that.
So I guess you have to find the executable finder method.
Yeah, it's using that. Yeah. In here.
What's the PHP tough composer stage?
But can you see where that function is defined? I'm curious.
That one?
Yeah.
Is it here?
Uh, there is a use line, use PHP tough composer stage API finder service.
Well, that's the interface.
Ah, I don't. There is only tests, so the only thing. So 3 lines.
Right. Well, let's not spend too much time on that
Yeah.
question.
Agreed. I'm just wondering if that auto detect is necessary at all then. Because I wonder if that auto detect that is run automatically, if that isn't that basically triggered if that custom executable path is empty and the auto detect would be run then anyway. And in case you are on a different Linux image, then it would adjust accordingly automatically.
Well, that's hard to answer without figuring out how it's implemented, which
Yeah.
is what we were just going for. I mean, it might be as simple as basically doing a which composer or the equivalent of that through some PHP wrapping function. It might be that simple, or it might be doing a lookup based on the Linux version, which I think is what Simo was suggesting. But I think we've discussed this enough. We know what our recommendations are, and we know that we have security concerns. Is there anything more you want to ask or
No, so in
just enough of
summary,
this
our
issue?
recommendation is simply keep the text area, leave a change, yeah, to custom executable path. Don't make those 2 fields required, and yeah, leave it empty on default and let it auto detect. And the text area reflects if something is found or if work is needed.
And I see Simo has found there's a link in the Zoom chat to where that's defined in the tough package.
Yeah, it looks like it's using a Symfony component for that, but it's going through that other namespace.
So I guess we'd have to trace it back through that Symfony component, which you also have for us. So just looking at this briefly, I think it's searching the usual executable directories. Or it's actually getting the path environment variable and then searching through whatever that specifies for executable files. Oh, but then on line 95, it executes the command.
Huh? But then, a naive question, shouldn't then going with something like node fail?
But you're not using the auto detect there. You're putting in a custom value.
Oh.
So that's sort of the opposite
Ah,
of using auto
okay, okay,
detect.
okay, okay, okay. But um, but shouldn't basically that custom value also run that execute, checking if it basically is valid?
Right, which I think is what happens when you go to the site status report.
Yeah.
And and that's also a security concern. I mean, worst case scenario, combine Simo's suggestion that you can put in a path to an uploaded file, and then you go to the site status report and it runs an executable uploaded file.
Oof.
Um, I mean, there are already protections in place. Maybe. Um, I mean, when you try to upload a PHP file, Drupal will at least, I think, change the extension of it and maybe make it not executable. But if we're running PHP with a file name, I think it doesn't matter that the file name is munged, and it doesn't matter that the file has been marked execute. That sounds like a serious problem to me.
Well, but do all web servers have those executable bytes? It's like you can't run Drupal on MS-DOS, but like other servers where they don't have that distinction.
Yeah, looking at that Symfony component you found, I did see some comments about Windows built-in commands. So, um, so it's doing something different for Windows.
Tricky. Yeah, but should we end here about this issue?
Uh, yeah, I don't have anything else to say on it. CMO.
Yeah, nothing to add at this point.
So we still have 15 minutes. Shall we look at those
Yeah.
suggestions? Do you have the issue open?
Oops, description. It's issue. We are looking at issue number 3370326, refined field descriptions, and at Drupal Camp Colorado at the sprint, Clayton Dewey and 3 or 4 other participants discussed or taken a look at those changed field descriptions, and I briefly looked at those recommendations they came up with, and they're mostly about, or solely about the first step, not about the second when you get into a group. I just look, check out, oops, git branch. Yeah, I just change the branch. Then you can look HCR. Content type. Oops. Create new field. Okay. The points they've mentioned for reference, which is, yeah, those are the updated ones. The current state basically is reference, a content or configuration entity. And their comment was, proposed description contains confusing jargon. Rephrase it to reference other content.
I think that for the page you're looking at, you can also rely on the screenshot from the issue. Um, so yeah, we currently, wait a minute, field to reference other content. That's what the screenshot says.
Oh.
Oh, I guess they're suggesting remove the words field to, just reference other content rather than field to reference. Or am I looking at the before screenshot? Oh, I'm looking at the before screenshot. I'm sorry.
The after
Before,
screenshot says
after. Reference a content or configuration entity, and they want to go back to something closer to the original, but without the word field to. Um, um, all right, so we currently have reference a content or configuration entity, and they want to change it to reference other content. What do you think?
What are the use cases for referencing configuration entities? I'm thinking this so all the named options are for
content. Yeah.
Yeah, for content, and keeping in mind that someone made the decision to remove float from the number options available. So in that, it would be in line to reduce the information from there and only to refer to the named options, and through other, it is possible to reference other things as well.
Yeah. As you can see here, content has only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 options, while configuration has approximately double the number, twice the number.
Yeah, but those are not really used by non-technical users. So
I think it's a perfectly valid question. What is the use case? And I can't answer that. But if I ever did need to reference config, and I were looking at the label reference other content, um, I might not click through and find what I need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so what if we compromise and leave off the word entity, but say reference other content or configuration?
Yeah. That would cover the concern in regards of jargon with entity, which I agree is sort of challenging.
Yeah. So it doesn't have a lot of space for text, but I'm thinking it would be possible, like maybe in the next step with the other, we could mention some of the examples of what are the other things, such as menus or non. It's getting confusing if we say non-content blocks, but so there could be some let's say views blocks or something like that that are needed to be referenced, or there could be a use case menus views blocks or something like that could be referenced so that they could be rendered in Node template.
Yeah. And also one point that is definitely valid, if we reference here on the first step, reference a content or configuration, but then on the next step, we only have content with content, taxonomy term, and user. And under other, there's nothing in that regard. It definitely would be definitely helpful to extend that a bit.
So shall we just say on the next step, in parentheses, content or configuration?
Yeah,
Uh,
I think so.
And should that go at the end or before on the next screen?
do you think?
I guess I often find myself inserting parenthetical comments in the middle of sentences, and then I often stop myself and move the parenthetical comment to the end of the sentence because I think that anytime you interrupt the flow of a sentence, you're adding cognitive load.
Yeah, agreed. And where to edit then? In the under the other section.
Right. So choose from all available options on the next screen and then paren content and configuration, close paren.
Okay. Okay.
So we have a little more than 5 minutes left. Let's run through the other
Yeah.
recommendations.
Number is the next. Oops, we have to go back. Number is numeric value like quantity or price. And they say proposed description is redundant. Simplify it to numeric value.
I think here the idea has been kind of help people if they're looking for where, like to give some ideas before. If it's only numeric value, then we don't need it at all, because
Yep.
number we if we are in trouble if we need to explain that numbers are numeric values. So this is not a dictionary. We are giving examples of what kind of things there are.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think someone might approach this with the mindset that a dollar value is fundamentally different from numeric, that Yeah, a number is a pure number without units or something, and they might be looking and not finding some a field that will support dollars or euros. So I think including the examples is a good idea.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, how about file upload?
File upload is currently at file upload, create media type with the ability to upload assets. Proposed description is confusing. Simplify to upload any type of file. The point is how we got to that description right here is it is basically mirroring that help text on the next step. Which says use file or image reference fields when creating your own media types or for legacy files and images created before installing the media module. And that is the source or the basis for the description. It's not just about uploading, otherwise, because that description upload any type of file is basically, yeah, sort of redundant to file upload.
Right. So I guess the reason we did that is that we wanted to be accurate and that the current options when you click on file upload include media,
Yeah,
which is not our choice, but as long as it's there, um, actually, no, it doesn't include media.
no,
Uh,
but it references media.
it does.
It's yeah, it's all about that help text.
Yeah, I don't remember how we came up with this, and I agree that I don't like it. We're not actually creating a media type. We are that option does give us just the options of a file or an image. So we can do any file type. It is a bare file field. It is not a media field. So I think here I'd agree with them with the new recommendation, which I think is basically going back to the current description, fields to upload any type of files, plural.
Oh, wait. Oh, does it? Oh, does the second sentence basically mean if we are in a media type and within the media, oops, in that context? Okay.
You know, when you're adding a field to a media type, you don't want to click on the button that says create a media type.
Okay, 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 okay. Yeah, okay, agreed. Then so should we go with just upload any type of file?
Yeah, and except for singular or plural, was it file or files? Except for that, that's going back to the current text. That's what I see in the before screenshot.
Okay. So basically revert to before description.
And we are at the end of the hour. I'm willing to spend a couple of more minutes if you two are to look at the last recommendation.
Would be fine with me.
Yeah.
The last one is link, store a URL, choose if link text is allowed and what type of link. And
So that's
their recommendation is basically store a URL with an output text option. So it's basically more or less in line with, for example, telephone number and email.
hmm. So I don't think that's accurate. Um, and again, I wonder. I think those. Okay, I guess we added the output option to email and telephone number. But for link, you're actually choosing what's going to be stored in the database. Oh my gosh, look at the before text. Stores a URL string, optional varchar link text, and optional blob of attributes to assemble a link. That's terrible. Um,
So with link, we don't have any. So link is only single option. So this one needs to say all there is to say. And what type of link? It does have internal or external or allow both. So it's not about output, it's about input.
yes, and that's generally the case with adding fields.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd like to have another look at the output link option on the email and telephone number fields.
Nothing.
Okay, so I think
Oh,
we're already a few minutes over. Anything else you'd like to add before we close?
nothing.
And I think we did spend most of our attention on the following pages. The recommendations for the page we're looking at now were maybe a little bit rushed. But yeah, let's adjust these and think about whether those things are accurate and can be simplified. Um,
I make the updates to the reference one and
okay,
the file upload. And yeah, I leave a comment on the auto detect issue. And oh,
okay,
just one question, the security should not be mentioned.
that's right.
Okay. And oh, and I update also the comment and remove the references for the point on the fixed issue.
Yes.
Okay. Good, good,
Great.
good.
Thank you both,
Thank you.
and hope
Yeah.
to see you again next week.
Have a nice weekend.
You too.
Likewise, have a nice weekend.